Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a concept I call finding your enough. As a financial mentor, I see folks working incredibly hard every single week. They're doing their absolute best, right? Yet they still feel utterly defeated the second they look at the numbers on their screens. It is so easy to assume you're the only one falling behind. But trust me, when we look at the actual data together, it changes the entire narrative. Let's get right into it.
Picture this. It's 3 in the morning. We're sitting at the kitchen table with Dave. He's 45, in his sweatpants, clutching a lukewarm cup of coffee, and just staring at his banking app in sheer panic. Why? Because he just read a headline claiming the average American in their mid-40s has a net worth of nearly $1 million. Literally almost $1 million. If you're Dave, or honestly, anyone just living a normal, everyday life, that number hits you right in the gut. You immediately ask yourself, wait, am I failing, or is the math failing me? Well, I've got some good news for you. We're going to uncover exactly why that $1 million figure is a mathematically laundered lie. It's a number perfectly designed to make you feel like you're drastically behind.
So, to pull Dave out of this 3 a.m. panic spiral, we first have to diagnose the real problem here and relieve the massive pressure caused by these totally false industry benchmarks. Look, the financial media loves to use numbers from a game that the average person isn't even playing anymore. They blast these towering, sky-high average figures that do nothing but induce panic. And what happens? People either make incredibly risky financial moves, or they just get super depressed and give up. So, let's pull back the curtain and break down exactly how they pull off this statistical magic trick. Just look at the insane gap between these two numbers. On one hand, you have the average net worth, which is sitting at nearly $976,000. But then, look at the median net worth. It's just $247,000. How on earth does that happen? Well, think about it like this. If you put Jeff Bezos in a room with 9 broke guys, the average net worth of that room is suddenly in the billions. Is it technically true? Sure. Is it practically useful for the rest of us? Not at all. The median, though, that tells the real story. It's what you get when you line everyone up from poorest to richest and point to the person standing dead center. That person is Dave, and that is where the typical, hardworking person actually stands today.
But we gotta look even closer, because honestly, even that $247,000 median number, it's kind of an illusion. When we actually slice up these numbers, it's pretty shocking. Roughly 60 to 70% of that net worth is literally locked inside Drywall. We're talking about $160,000 tied up purely in home equity. That leaves Dave with just $87,000 of actual liquid runway to cover retirement, sudden emergencies, real life. And let's be real, you cannot eat home equity. You can't pay your electric bill with it. So that actual safety net, it's way, way smaller than even the median would have you believe.
And this brings us right to one of the most dangerous traps in all of personal finance. We have to tackle the core difference between earning a high salary and actually owning real wealth. Because society constantly beats this idea into our heads that a high income is the ultimate finish line. But as your mentor, I've got to tell you the truth. Income is just a tool. That's it. It's exactly what you do with that tool that determines whether or not you reach high net worth status. Take a look at these two completely different financial lives. On one side, we have a real couple that was featured on a Netflix financial show. They are pulling in a massive combined income of $286,000. But guess what? They are absolutely drowning in credit card debt and have a measly $2,000 in savings. They're what I call a high-earning household performing the illusion of wealth. Now on the flip side, we have Ronald Reed. Ronald was a janitor and a gas station attendant. He never made more than minimum wage his entire life. Yet, through incredible discipline and frugal living, he died with an $8 million net worth. $8 million! A massive income simply will not save you if your behavior is undisciplined. At the end of the day, wealth is all about what you keep, not what you make.
So, the obvious question here is, if Dave is a hardworking, disciplined guy, why is he struggling so much? Well, if you're watching this and wondering why you can't seem to max out your retirement accounts right now, despite doing everything right, it's probably because you're caught in a crushing generational trap. Listen to me, you aren't bad at math, you are just carrying the financial weight of the generations above you and the generation below you.
When we break down Dave's exact generational expenses, the picture gets crystal clear real fast. He is paying $1,400 every single month for his mom's memory care. On top of that, he's got an adult child still living at home because the rent out there is just totally unaffordable. And the absolute killer, he's paying off a Parent Plus loan for his kid at a staggering 9.08% interest rate. Look, It is structurally impossible to hit those aggressive guru-level financial goals when you are literally financially supporting 3 generations. So as your mentor, my advice here is all about survival and balance. You absolutely must prioritize paying down that toxic 9% debt while simultaneously maintaining just enough modest retirement contributions to capture your employer match. You can't out-invest 9% guaranteed debt, but you also absolutely cannot afford to stop saving entirely.
Now, to successfully walk that tightrope between destroying toxic debt and building investments, we have to completely redefine what wealth actually looks and feels like. We really need to examine the psychological milestones of saving. Because here is the secret. Personal finance is rarely just about the math. It's almost entirely about your central nervous system. Let's track how your body actually feels as that bank account finally starts to grow. Okay, our first true psychological milestone is $10,000. Now, let's be real. Reaching 10 grand doesn't buy you financial freedom. You definitely aren't retiring on a yacht anytime soon. But you know what it absolutely does buy you? A full night of sleep. When your car transmission suddenly blows on a Tuesday and the mechanic quotes you $3,000, you don't spiral into a panic. You don't have to take out some terrible predatory loan. You just pay it. $10,000 buys you the right to keep your stress levels at baseline when life inevitably happens. Moving up the ladder, we hit $100,000. This right here is what the legendary investor Charlie Munger famously called the absolute hardest threshold to cross. And why is that? Because the math fundamentally flips once you hit this number. Below $100K, your hard-earned monthly contributions are doing all the heavy lifting. You're pushing the boulder up the hill. But once you cross this line, your market returns finally start working harder than your contributions. At a standard 7% growth, your money literally starts making more money for you than you are putting in from your paycheck. It's a massive mechanical shift in your wealth journey.
And that builds perfectly into our next major milestone, $250,000. Hitting $250,000 in investments unlocks a magical concept known as Coast FIRE. That stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. What this means is even if you never, ever invest another penny from your paycheck, compounding interest alone on that $250,000 will carry you to a comfortable, traditional retirement by age 65. Talk about the ultimate deep breath, right?
Now, back to our guy, Dave. Dave does not have 250 grand in his 401k. His situation is tight and he is definitely feeling the pressure. But as I tell literally everyone I mentor, it is far from hopeless. You still have time. So let's prescribe a realistic math-backed action plan for Dave by focusing on the 20-year compounding window he still has wide open to him.
But first, seriously, you have got to stop blaming yourself. If we track the real wealth changes between 2019 and 2023, a pretty shocking pattern emerges. People under 40, they gained massive wealth. People over 70 also gained wealth. But Dave's age group, folks between 40 and 54, actually lost 7% of their real wealth. Why? Well, because the economic window to build wealth the easy way, cheap houses, dirt low interest rates, it slammed shut exactly when it was your generation's turn to walk through it. You're basically running a marathon where the judges change the route on you halfway through. And that brings us to a very crucial reality check. $60,763. That right there is the actual median 401k balance for an American in their mid-40s. It is not $600,000, it's 60 grand. The absolute worst thing you can do at 45 is look at those fake guru numbers, assume it's entirely too late, and just throw in the towel. The game is absolutely harder now, no doubt about it, but the clock is still running.
So here is the mentor's playbook. Instead of attempting some miraculous, hyper-risky turnaround, Dave simply needs to capture his remaining 20-year compounding window by making a modest, highly realistic pivot. Step 1, he bumps his 401k contribution just a tiny bit, up to 10%. That's about $390 a month. Step 2, he sets up an automatic draft of $300 a month into an IRA. That's a total of roughly $700 a month. It's modest enough that he can still aggressively attack that crushing Parent Plus loan debt, but it's impactful enough to completely save his future.
And what exactly does that modest little pivot get him? $380,000. Let that sink in. That single, relatively painless decision made on a random Monday morning in his sweatpants, just adjusting an auto draft by $700, is worth nearly $400,000 by the time he retires. All thanks to the magic of compounding interest. He doesn't need to be a Wall Street genius, guys. He just needs to turn the machine on, step back, and let time do the heavy lifting.
Ultimately, we all have to stop and ask ourselves, what are we actually chasing here? The author Joseph Heller was once at a party, and someone pointed out that a billionaire hedge fund manager made more money in a single day than Heller had made in his entire life from his incredibly famous book, Catch-22. Heller just smiled and replied, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. I have enough." Wow. Whether you have $800,000 or $8 million, the only number that truly, actually matters is figuring out what enough looks like for your own life. You do not need to match the billionaires. You just need to secure your own peace of mind. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. What is the smallest, most realistic step you can take this week to secure your enough?